Welcome to Making Activities Dementia Inclusive. This session has been developed to provide people living with dementia and their care partners inspiration and strategies to create more meaningful activities, which in turn will help improve quality of life and maintain well-being. Over the next hour or so, I'll discuss different types of activities and how they can be dementia inclusive. And throughout this session, we'll look at the benefits and importance of creating a daily routine that includes all different kinds of activities to maintain health and well-being. Today, we're going to look at what defines an activity and ways to make any activity more dementia inclusive. We'll consider what to think about when choosing an activity, like where and when to do something, and even some ideas for how to present an activity. And then we'll finish up by looking at different types of activities with some examples. I want to point out that the phone number for the First Link Dementia Helpline will be shown in the footer of many of today's slides. If you hear anything that you want more information on, or you have any questions about living with dementia, you can call Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you're watching, it's likely that you're affected by dementia. Either you're living with dementia yourself, or you are supporting someone who's living with dementia. So let's start by thinking about some of the challenges that you may have already experienced. These may be challenges you've experienced because of the way in which dementia has changed your brain, or it may be challenges in trying to involve your family member in activities. Adjusting activities to match changing abilities can be challenging for both the person experiencing the cognitive changes and the care partner helping them with the activities. So, what actually makes something an activity? Activities include almost everything that we do in our lives: our jobs, roles in the home and family, leisure time, self-care, and all the other things that we do in a day. Activities are much more than just a way to occupy time. They provide an opportunity for meaningful experience and purpose. When someone experiences dementia symptoms, it can be challenging to find ways to adapt activities and to create activities to ensure that their needs continue to be met. Keep in mind that any activity can be dementia inclusive. No one activity is ideal for all people with dementia because everyone is unique with different personalities, interests, past experiences, and abilities. In adapting and creating activities, we should try to focus on creating opportunities for success. People living with dementia often find everyday activities increasingly difficult and may feel badly for not being able to do what once was effortless. It can be very frustrating to no longer be able to engage in a spirited political discussion or to follow a familiar recipe for dinner. And that's why failure-free activities are so important. Activities that always come out right no matter what, and being happily engaged in a satisfying activity can reduce stress and improve well-being. So, how do we create those opportunities for successful activities? Focus on remaining skills and match the activity to the person's abilities. Keep in mind changing abilities that might impact participation. And also keep in mind that abilities can change day to day. This might mean adapting as things change. For example, if you used to cook elaborate dinners, but now find that is beyond your abilities, you may still enjoy and gain a sense of accomplishment by helping with tasks that you can still do, such as cutting vegetables, setting the table, or even just washing up after dinner. Try to be open to asking for or accepting help and guidance if you find that you can no longer accomplish tasks you used to be able to do. It can feel very frustrating, but be easy on yourself. The changes you are experiencing are the result of changes in your brain. Focus on the individual's personality and preferences. Make sure the activity matches the person's interests and seems meaningful or rewarding to them. But also keep in mind that because of dementia, a person's preferences may change. They may be open to trying things that they would never have considered previously. If you're a care partner, suggest an activity that both of you will be interested in. Supported activities will allow the person to continue to engage in things that they enjoy, and activities often become more meaningful when done together. Structure and routine help to orient the person living with dementia, so trying to maintain a routine is important, even when it needs to be adapted. For example, COVID or something else may yet again enforce restrictions on us. Having to stay at home and not be able to participate in regularly scheduled activities created huge disruption and left big holes in many people's daily routines. So think about if that were to happen again. Consider the activities that you can implement at home to maintain a similar routine and that will provide similar benefits. For example, if you previously attended or currently attend a Minds in Motion class every Monday afternoon, and something happens and you can't get out to that class, explore options for getting physical exercise at home on Monday afternoons. If you used to have coffee with the guys at Tim Hortons every Friday morning, but now find that Tim's is just too busy and noisy, think about exploring options for connecting with one or all of the group via the phone, or maybe meet with a smaller group, or find a quieter location. And perhaps most importantly, be gentle with yourself. Dementia brings tremendous change and variability. We all have good days and bad days, and that is even more true when living with dementia. So be open to adapting even day to day. Change is hard. It's even more difficult for people living with dementia. Our ability to successfully manage change depends on our ability to adapt. It's okay to be sad or angry that your daily routine has been disrupted and to miss your regularly scheduled activities. But in order to stay healthy and well, we must be proactive in adapting to change. Many people feel helpless and frustrated when dementia requires us to change how we do things. But it can also be empowering to recognize that you have a lot of control in determining how you spend your days, the effects that the activities you choose have on your well-being, and the ability to manage your time. Establishing a consistent routine that meets your needs by including activities can help to maintain your health and well-being throughout this challenging journey and can help give you back a bit of a sense of control. You're probably looking for ideas for activities, and I am going to give you some ideas. But a good rule of thumb when looking for new activities is to ask yourself, do I do at least one thing each day that falls into each of these activities? Something that creates a sense of purpose, that promotes health and well-being, that stimulates or entertains, something that enables social connection and support, and something that allows rest and relaxation. So again, think about those 5 areas: a sense of purpose, promoting health and well-being, stimulate or entertain, enable social connection and support, allows for rest and relaxation. So those can be 5 different activities. Your well-being and health, and if you're a caregiver, that of the people that you care for, is dependent on these needs being met through activity. Creating a daily routine that ensures all of these needs are met, and then sticking to it, will help get you through the day more meaningfully. Okay, so now that we've established that activities are much more than just a way to occupy time, and that they provide an opportunity for meaningful experiences, let's look at some different ways that we can engage in activities that give us purpose, meet our basic daily needs, and fuel our spirit, or activities which support people living with dementia to do so. As dementia progresses, a person's ability to participate in different activities will very likely change. Adapting activities to changing abilities and remaining flexible are key to helping a person living with dementia remain engaged in a variety of activities that are meaningful to them. So, try and keep this lens of meaningful experiences in your head as we look at activities and continue to think about them being meaningful throughout the dementia journey. Start by thinking, why do we need to adapt activities to be dementia inclusive? Almost all dementias are a progressive illness, and for most people there will be recurring changes in cognitive and physical activities as well as physical abilities as well as emotions. Because of these changes, activities are likely going to need to be adjusted multiple times. Here's an example. Olga crocheted every evening for most of her adult life. Her brain changes are now making it difficult for her to follow a pattern and count stitches. But she likes being busy during the evening. That's been part of her long-standing routine. Her husband, Peter, remembered the days when Olga would color with her grandchildren. He purchased 2 adult coloring books and pencils and sat down one evening with Olga at the kitchen table to color with her. As they colored together, they reminisced about the days when their 4 young grandchildren played in their home. The coloring books are now left on the kitchen table every night. And now Olga will walk into the kitchen after the 6 o'clock news and start coloring without Peter. Olga's new activity is starting to become a routine. This example focuses on Olga's skills, her personality, and a past connection. It also demonstrates how important Peter's role is. Peter and Olga colored together at first. They both enjoyed it. Peter's involvement and encouragement probably made coloring more interesting and accessible to Olga. Think about it for a moment. If Peter had just left a coloring book and pencils on the table and called out to Olga, "Why don't you try coloring instead of crochet?" What do you think would have happened? You may have noticed that dementia can include apathy, which is a lack of motivation, and another effect for many people of the changes in the brain. Sometimes people with dementia seem to want to do nothing, or at least very little. You may think your person is just not interested in any activities, but the right activity and the right time can be successful. Sometimes the brain struggles to connect the dots, to take action or make a decision. We're going to talk a bit later about how to introduce an activity and why we need to be ready to adapt from day to day. As I've mentioned now a few times, most dementias are progressive, and we broadly group the progression into 3 stages. These stages are not clearly defined and will be different for each person, but it can be helpful to think of activities in this way and to think overall about the goal for the activity. So goals for activities at the early stage are to provide a sense of purpose and enjoyment, to boost self-esteem, to decrease anxiety, nurture togetherness, and maintain socialization. Focus on retaining remaining skills and encourage continuity with current lifestyle. Minimal supervision is usually required in the early stage. This picture is a picture of Mario Gregario, who has dementia. Mario has developed a passion for photography since his diagnosis, and some of the images in our various presentations are Mario's. Yet it's also key that we adapt where necessary to accommodate short-term memory and other lost skills. Mario is aware that his dementia increases the chances that he might get lost, and so he has connected with a physically active group of photographers. If he's going somewhere new to take pictures, he ensures that he doesn't go alone. As dementia progresses, the goals for activities need to change as well. So goals for activities in the middle stage are to maintain self-esteem, often through reminiscing, to maintain communication and social skills, to provide a sense of accomplishment and fun, to help prevent boredom, to maintain good physical health. Because the ongoing changes in the brain resulting in more severe memory loss and often limited physical skills, people in the middle stage of dementia generally require simpler, shorter activities and instructions, and more supervision is generally advised. It can be helpful to focus on past life activities. For example, sanding wood for a previous carpenter, or rolling skeins of wool into balls for someone who was a knitter. Goals for activities at the late stage of dementia are to provide relief from stress and frustration, to provide reassurance, to promote dignity and comfort, and to connect through emotions and the 5 senses. Activities for someone in the late stage of dementia need to be even shorter, less frequent, and less demanding. It's very important that steps are greatly simplified to meet changes in mental, physical, and social abilities. Focus on enhancing quality of life. Often, repetitive activities are particularly calming and soothing. Things like folding dishcloths or sorting objects. Supervision is recommended and often required. Each person is different, so it might take some trial and error to find activities that appeal to them. In most cases, avoid sharp objects and only give items that you know will be safe. For example, someone may tend to put things in their mouths or wrap things tightly around different body parts, and so you want to avoid small pieces or string. It's important to consider the time and location when planning an activity. So we've talked about the goals for the activities at different stages of dementia. Now it's time to think about the when and where. Choose a time of day that's the most appropriate for an activity. For example, for an activity that requires concentration and energy, choose a time when the person's level of functioning is at its highest, which for many people living with dementia is in the morning. That may not be true for you, and so think about what is the best time of day for you or for your person. For an activity where the goal is to relieve tension, choose a time of day where the person often feels anxious, or ideally just before that feeling usually occurs. Make sure the environment is safe for someone with dementia. When thinking about whether the environment is appropriate, consider noise and distraction levels. Think about how long will an outing be? How much walking will be involved, and will there be places and time to sit and rest? Will there be easy access to readily available washrooms? What happens if your person decides not to participate in a group outing halfway through? Make sure that the lighting is appropriate, bright enough, but no glare. Things that those of us with cognitively intact brains may not even think about can be tremendous barriers to people who are living with dementia. So doing activities in a familiar environment also helps to reduce stress and allows for better participation. So wherever possible, integrate activities into a daily routine. Remember, structure helps to orient a person living with dementia. So let's look a bit more at how to adapt an activity over the dementia journey. Here's an example. Ken has been an avid card shark for years, loves to play cards, but he struggles to play now and he gets his cards mixed up during bridge. Think about what changes might you do first to support Ken. Maybe you want to have everybody play with a partner so that Ken can have someone to help with the rules. Maybe you bend the rules a bit so it doesn't so matter if Ken follows exactly the way things are supposed to be played. As the disease progresses, our next adaptation might be switching to a simpler card game such as Rummy or Fish. Eventually, Ken may enjoy a simple game of Snap. During the later stages of dementia, Ken could help sort the cards into red and black, or queens and kings. He could organize the cards by color or suit, or he might like to shuffle the cards together and put them back in the box. These things help ensure that he is still a card shark, but we've helped Ken adapt and continue in his activity. It can often be helpful if there's a reason for the activity, and it could be as simple as asking the person living with dementia if they could help you with a project or chore. Framing the activity as a way to help and offering an end goal can enhance a person's sense of purpose and desire to complete the activity. You can also ask if they would like to join you in activity just because you'd enjoy their company. That can sometimes help to offset the apathy that can be part of dementia. You could say something like, "Can you help me? I'd like to do this together." Break down instructions into a few simple steps and demonstrate as you instruct. Offer help only when it's needed. It's worth noting here that what can seem simple can actually be quite complex and require a number of steps. Think about what goes into making a cup of tea. You have to be able to initiate the activity when you want a cup of tea. You have to remember what you want to do when you get to the kitchen. Get a mug out of the cupboard and get a tea bag and turn on the kettle. But wait, the kettle needs water in it first to boil. Then you need to turn on the kettle and wait for the water to boil, and so on. I hope you can see that what seems straightforward can actually be complex. So be supportive and encouraging. Do not criticize. The goal is not the final product, but the enjoyment of the activity. Do the activity with the person, or at least begin the activity with the person as a way to show the different steps. It's often easier to mimic someone rather than listen to a set of instructions. And keep adapting familiar activities to changing skill levels. For example, you might want to ask the person to only do parts of a project, or you might want to leave partially completed activities around the house. For example, leave the dinner table with only some of the plates and silverware set in the right place. And remember to thank the person or express your appreciation when the activity is completed. Involving a person living with dementia in activities is not simply a way to keep them busy. Activities provide valuable opportunities to share meaningful moments and boost self-esteem. And both of you need to be kind to yourself and to the person who cares for you or that you are caring for. Living with dementia is a skill set that you develop over time. So let's take a look at different types of activities, or rather, activities that fall into different categories. You will likely notice that there's lots of overlap in the activities I'm about to talk about. These are just handy labels to apply that might help you to think of different activities. Reminiscing can be a powerful tool to create meaningful activities. This is a great activity for people who have short-term memory problems, as they can remember the past and often enjoy sharing stories of their experiences with others. Many people have told us that they want to start documenting the stories that people tell when they're reminiscing about the good old days. Consider spending some time to look at old photos, create a scrapbook, or write the stories and details down. This activity will be meaningful as you can reminisce about the past while strengthening the details for the person living with dementia's identity by documenting who they were and who they've been. You can also use familiar objects to prompt a memory by creating a memory box tailored to past interests. Try using a variety of aids that incorporate a sensory experience. For example, pictures, videos, smells, sounds, textures. Creating these kinds of memory boxes can be a valuable activity in the earlier stages. Spending time with your care partner and talking about the items that have meaning for you can be very precious time and can help your partner to reminisce with you later in the progression of your disease. For example, for a former office worker, create a box that reminds you of your career. Include paper clips, pencils, erasers, paper, letters. We've all got lots of junk mail lying around. A calculator, file folders, notepads, anything in the box that's meaningful for you and the work that you did. If someone used to do handiwork, put nuts and bolts, PVC pipe pieces and fittings, a piece of wood sanded smooth for no splinters, fine grit sandpaper, and maybe some twine in their box. Someone who enjoyed cooking or baking might enjoy measuring spoons, a whisk, a spatula, and other related items. This can work for any type of job or hobby. Just be creative about finding objects that will be safe to handle. With reminiscing activities, focus on past relevant experiences, and particularly past successes in any area like fishing, crafting, sewing, electrical or carpentry work, vacation, or family photos. These activities help to focus on long-term memories, which may be impacted much less and much later than short-term memory. And that can help someone re-experience past experiences and emotion, which in turn can raise self-esteem and stimulate conversation. Anxiety-reducing activities help distract from responsive behaviors or feelings of anxiety and restlessness. Repetitive activities such as brisk walks or cleaning the counter or sorting objects are particularly effective at reducing anxiety, especially in the later stages of dementia. Listening to music, especially through headphones, may be helpful at blocking out stimuli that could be causing anxiety or stress. Sensory therapy is also an effective method for reducing anxiety, calming nerves, and providing comfort. Use at least one or more of the five senses to elicit pleasant feelings, memories, or a connection with the person's surroundings. For example, aromatherapy, massage, feeling the water, or being barefoot in the sand. For aromatherapy, you could create scented cards with a theme like winter or baking, or give a hand or foot massage with scented creams. Sensory bags like the DIY aquarium bags that you can find on the internet with water, beads, and ocean animals. Sorting objects can be a lovely sensory activity. Consider keeping bags of coins handy to sort into small glass or ceramic bowls. Think about the sound of those falling into the little bowls. Or mix nuts and bolts or buttons. Asking someone to help you sort a pile of whatever can help give them that sense of purpose. Popping bubble wrap. Come on, who doesn't love popping bubble wrap? It's fun, it's satisfying, and it's definitely something you can do together. Other examples of activities that stimulate our five senses include movies. For example, old favorite movies, scenery videos, or even something like watching the Frame channel together. Baking or cooking just to enjoy the smells and possibly the feel of cookies or bread, or maybe not so much the feel, but the smell of making soup. Non-toxic finger paints can be so much fun. Just remember to cover the surface with plastic or brown paper. Having their hair brushed. This is an activity that most of us have not experienced ourselves since perhaps we were very young. And the feeling of someone else brushing your hair can be oh so wonderful. Calming activities are intended to calm the feeling of being overwhelmed by the environment. Activities in this category include quiet music. Consider creating a playlist of old favorites. Pet therapy, and it doesn't need to be your own pet. Consider going to a petting zoo, or find out if your neighbor can visit with their dog, or if the facility has an animal on the grounds, or a regular pet visiting program, or perhaps a next door farm where the animals like this horse can be petted. Especially if animals have been an important part of someone's life, spending time stroking, cuddling, and just touching animals can be tremendously soothing. Other calming activities, yoga, tai chi. Not only is it soothing, but these are often skills that are retained for a long time and can be adapted to seated positions. Breathing exercises and visualization. There are lots of free exercises on the internet, so you can try out different ones to find one that suits you both. Gardening. It may not be what I would choose in order to relax, but I'm told that many people find digging in the dirt or trimming plants very soothing. Again, it's about what fits for you and the person, given their interests and history. Sensory rooms are increasing in popularity. This is a space for enjoying a variety of sensory experiences and where gentle stimulation of the senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and movement, can be provided in a controlled way. Activities of daily living are something you might hear about from your case manager if you are at that point. It just means things that we do in our regular lives, like brushing our teeth, dressing ourselves, vacuuming and washing dishes. For many of us, we fall into the trap of wanting to help, to protect our person from the changes they are experiencing. But in fact, continuing to do as many activities of daily living as possible is helpful to maintain current skills and encourage a feeling of independence. The activities will likely need to change as the disease progresses. For example, if we look at gardening again, initially little might change except perhaps needing help or guidance in picking out plants. Then it might be that the person can help select between two different choices and then dig the holes to put pre-selected plants into. And perhaps, finally, just sitting in the garden holding the hose. Helping with cooking or baking could include just chopping or washing vegetables or measuring ingredients. Or it might be that you put out the particular recipe for that night and be prepared to call for pizza. Running the vacuum might be something that hasn't been part of their pattern in the past, but could feel really good to do now. Physical activity that produces a satisfyingly helpful result. Half-finished activities can be a great way to get people involved. I mentioned them much earlier in the video. Can be helpful because it can help motivate the person to finish the started activities, and often they don't require instruction, and they can help to promote independence. Things like some towels folded on top of the laundry basket, or like the example earlier in the session of the half-set table. For many of us, simply seeing a half-finished chore will almost instinctively prompt us to finish up. Consider past roles, which can help maintain self-esteem by providing continuity in life through familiar roles. Think about past hobbies or committees and how you might involve club members to continue to include a person now living with dementia in meaningful ways. Have an open discussion about the changes. Perhaps someone who used to be the chairperson can no longer manage that level of responsibility and multitasking, but would love to be responsible for helping to set up the chairs in the meeting or set out cups for coffee. Think about a former place of employment and include colleagues. Find out if shared coffee time is a good time to visit. A former fire chief loved to spend time at the station and helped with washing the trucks or even just visited. No one shares stories like others in the same profession. Firemen, police, nurses, especially emergency room nurses, garage mechanics. It could be that just at closing, the manager or former colleague could sit down and discuss problems from the day. Many roles have an internal language, and it can be very helpful to hear it again. Even when someone has moved to a long-term care home, meaningful activities are so important for well-being. I knew of a former businessman who would come into the main nursing station and help file. The nurses had materials set aside for him with various colored file folders and papers, and he could work away feeling productive and helpful. And he would often call a business meeting with the folks at his table. Another way to think about grouping activities is to think of them as connecting with body, mind, and spirit, or as physical, mental, and spiritual activity. Taking care of our physical health during stressful and uncertain times is crucial to maintaining our ability to cope with change, manage losses, and stay well. Physical activity allows us to expend energy, which is good if we're feeling restless or bored. Make physical activity part of your routine. Put it into your daily schedule. You can sprinkle fitness into pieces throughout your day, even while at home. Climb the stairs twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon. Do 5 laps around the house every time you leave the bathroom. Eating healthy foods and getting the right amount of sleep will help ensure that you have the energy you need to keep moving. Any kind of physical activity can be good, and there are many, many ways to adapt. Consider your current physical abilities and ensure that the environment is safe for the activity before beginning. Just getting out for a walk can allow you time to enjoy the moment, breathe in the air, and get moving. Think about cutting a pool noodle in half and getting a large balloon ball at a dollar store to whack back and forth. It's amazing how much laughter this can generate. Dancing can be done sitting if balance or safety is a concern. Music can lift our spirits and literally move us. Even singing and clapping along to your favorite song is enough to get your heart rate up for a few minutes. Soup cans make excellent weights for at-home workouts, and you can do gentle stretching almost anywhere. Connect with the local Alzheimer's Society office to find out if you have a Minds in Motion near you and try it out. It's a wonderful program to combine gentle exercise with social interaction. Go ahead and call the First Link Dementia Helpline. The number's listed on the screen. You can ask them about Minds in Motion near you. Engage your mind with things like reading the newspaper or reading aloud. Reading abilities are likely to change as dementia progresses, and someone who used to enjoy a deep, involved novel may find the shorter articles in a magazine more enjoyable. Especially earlier in the progression of dementia, learning new skills can be enjoyable. Things like basic knitting or learning how to email. Keep in mind that for many dementias, short-term memory may be impacted, and so writing clear, simple instructions can be helpful when returning to a new skill. Consider word games like Finnish famous saying, if I say a stitch in time or nothing ventured, probably you immediately fill those in your mind. Or try watching game shows. Creative activities like listening to music, painting, or visiting a gallery provide an outlet for emotions and opportunities for self-expression and communication. They also provide connection to the outside world and can just bring back pleasant memories and emotions. Humans are social creatures, and the effects of not being connected are detrimental to our health and well-being. Activities that meet our social needs and nurture our spirits can include things like dancing, or going to church, or eating out, or social games like bingo. Think about celebrations like birthdays and holidays. Visiting family and friends and spending time with pets seems to fill something up inside all of us. It might not leap into your mind first, but even doing errands can be quite social. Think of going to the hairdresser or the barber. Or if you always shop at the same store, probably the shopkeepers know you and there is a social interaction as you go through the checkout. Adult day programs are great resources and a terrific way to stay social. And we hear positive feedback from many individuals living with dementia and caregivers. However, sometimes even the staff at an adult day program can be challenged to engage their participants. A caregiver recently shared an example of this. Naresh was feeling a bit frustrated with the adult day program that her husband was attending because for much of the time that her husband was there, the main activity seemed to be bingo. He was bored and didn't want to go back. Naresh had been doing a lot of research into activities for people with dementia and had collected a bunch of good group activities into a booklet that she presented to the facilitators of the adult day program. She even offered to come in and lead several of the activities to get them kick-started. As with all parts of dementia care, we encourage you to feel empowered to advocate for yourself or for a family member. As in Naresh's example, it can be helpful to speak with staff about challenges you see and provide them more information about yourself or the individual you're supporting to help engage in programming, or to offer suggestions that you have found helpful that everyone may benefit from. And finally, to nurture our spirit, there are, of course, those activities that fit more obviously into this category. Singing hymns together, or even just listening to music. Going for a walk outside. Every season brings wonderful things to look at, even just in the garden around a long-term care home. And of course, spiritual ceremonies or religious services, prayers, or meditation all help feed our spirits and our souls. So to summarize, focus on remaining skills and knowledge, not on lost abilities. Keep in mind that because of dementia, a person's preferences may change, and they may be open to trying things that they would not have considered previously. It's very important to keep in mind that the goal for any activity is the process of doing an activity, not the outcome of the activity itself. And so, as I finish up, once again, if you have questions about information you've heard, or any other questions about living with dementia, or are interested in any of our programs, please don't hesitate to call our First Link Dementia Helpline. English services are available Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 1-800-936-6033. Services are also available Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Punjabi, Cantonese, and Mandarin. Those numbers are also on the screen.